All right, I'm about to go to war. I'm gonna get right to the point. This is probably one of the most important videos I'm ever gonna make because ever since we're children, from the age of like 5 or 6, 4, 5 or 6, depending on if you went to preschool or not, from the day you enter the school system, you're taught that opposites attract, and proof of this is because of magnets, right? And this is honestly one of the biggest lies that people were taught and believe even to this day, right? You grow up living as a kid, you go to school, unless you're an antisocial weirdo, even as a little kid, you'll have your friend circle, right? You'll have your particular group of friends. That group of friends will be people that are most similar to you, right? So to keep it simple, the smart kids usually hang around each other, the athletic kids usually hang around each other, the womanizing kids usually hang around each other, etc., etc., right? All the attractive chicks usually hang around each other, all the children that don't look that good usually hang around each other, the fat kids usually hang around each other because they're attracting what they are. Yet the teachers will tell you that opposites attract. Now, somebody I used to talk to actually got angry at me earlier today because he was trying to say, if opposites attract, why do masculine men attract feminine women, and why do feminine women attract masculine men? And there's no nice way to say this without sounding a certain type of way, but there's no such thing as a masculine woman, guys. You take a woman that you think is the most masculine creature on planet Earth and you put her near a man that she actually respects, that she actually is willing to submit to, that she's actually in love with, and suddenly that masculine woman becomes an extremely feminine. And my example of this is the comedian Monique, right? In the 90s and early 2000s, we thought that she was the definition of a masculine woman. But when she got on that radio show with Charlemagne and her husband was on the phone, it was all, yes, daddy. Okay, daddy. I understand, daddy. Etc. So I didn't say this during our conversation because I just wasn't going to argue with him. Like, I knew how wrong he was and I wasn't going to. I've gotten to the point I don't really argue with people anymore. When I know I'm right and I know somebody else is just clearly fucking wrong, I just let them talk. I don't argue or pay them any mind anymore. But this is a perfect example of why, right? When you're ascending in the game, you really can't hang around people that don't get it, right? This is why men that get woman get more woman, and men that don't get woman get less woman, because it's a constant snowball effect, right? And when you don't understand the game, when you don't understand how women actually are, then it clouds your judgment of the game. In my opinion, it's a mandatory skill set. If you want to ascend in the game, you have to learn what is a man, what is a male, what is a woman, what is a female. You have to acknowledge our differences and you have to embrace the differences between the sexes so that you can understand the sexes. And this is to me mandatory. Otherwise, you go around saying stuff like masculine men attract feminine men attract masculine women. There's no such thing as a masculine woman, guys. I hate to say it. A 14-year-old boy, even a feminine 14-year-old boy, would absolutely destroy even a 30-year-old trained woman. Now, I'm not making this video to talk too much about that subject, but a lot of times when people use these examples to say why opposites attract, they don't truly know what they're talking about. Going back to my kid's example, right? And you see this as you grow up. So that elementary school kid that's a little on the intelligence side, he's going to attract other kids in the playground that are also on the intelligence side. And if he's the only brainy kid at that playground, he's going to get bullied by all the other kids in that playground, right? This is called the hive mentality, the sheep mentality, etc., the tribal mentality, whatever you want to call it. And really, it's not a mentality. The universe operates in terms of energy, and we're composed of electrons. We're composed of energy. The energy of the universe attracts what is most similar to it. Okay? This is important to understand. As you get older and you become a teenager, you notice that when it comes to like sports teams and where you sit at the lunch table, it's usually for the most part a bunch of people grouped up together that are the most similar. All the kids that do drugs hang out together. All the kids that don't do drugs hang out together. All the jocks hang out with each other. All the nerds hang out with each other. Even teachers. Even the teachers have their own little cliques in middle and high school, for those of y'all that remember, right? And then when you graduate school and you go out into the real world and you start applying for jobs, what do most fucking jobs do? You hand in your resume, then they have a secretive process on if they hire you or not. They don't tell you what this process is, but two people with the same exact resume can apply to, no, fuck that. 2,000 people with the same exact resume can apply to the job, and only, a few of those people get hired. And the few people that get hired, they're all similar. What do you guys notice when you go to a job interview? They don't really ask you much about if you can perform the job at all. Instead, what they do is they kind of just talk to you like regular people. It's a personality test. They're trying to see if you'll fit in with the group. They're trying to see if you'll play the game. They're trying to see if you're compatible with the other people that have the job, right? Let me take a sip of tea real quick. This is why I'm glad that the two jobs I have right now, Ubering and acting, I'm an independent contractor. I don't got to deal with the political crap as much. Unfortunately, in acting, you do still have to play politics. But, it's, the personality test is still there. But there's other variables, at least, that can, decide if you get hired or not. Versus a regular job, you hand in your resume, then when you come back for the interview, they give you a personality test to see if you're similar to everybody else that works the job, right? And every single one of you guys that are working that actually have lives outside of the internet, you guys, hell, even the internet, right? You join a fucking Discord server. Most people in the Discord server are similar. And if you're not like everybody else in that Discord server, what happens? You get bullied, kicked out, banned, or ridiculed, right? The hive mentality all over again, but it's not a mentality, right? When you go to apply to a job and you enter the door, if you're not similar to the people that are in that building, it's like a heat wave. It hits you. You feel something is off. And then when you start talking to these people, when you start to see that you're not like these people at all, you kind of feel that you're not going to get hired, right? When you go out to the club, when you go out to the bar, when you go out to the park, when you socialize outside, when you're actually living life and living in the real world, what happens? The only people that you're interacting with for the most part are people that are similar to you in some way. When you're out and about, and it's like, oh my God, small world, we're very similar. That's because the energy is attracting what is most similar. Now, we have to think about this logically. Why are we told that opposites attract? Why are we told this bold-faced lie, right? Part of the game is conflict, order among chaos, right? If you keep people believing in bullshit, look at relationships. Promiscuous men attract promiscuous women, right? There's a popular podcast called Fresh and Fit where a bunch of guys with high body counts talk about how men are not going to accept promiscuity from women, but then they go on to admit that the only women that they date are OnlyFans models and porn stars, etc. That's because they're promiscuous men, they're going to naturally attract promiscuous women. The only time I ever met virgins in my life was when I was a virgin. After I lost my virginity, suddenly I stopped meeting virgins. And the few times I did meet virgins after that, the energy was off. I could no longer relate to them. And you see this a lot in the dating world, right? You look at a couple, they're usually exactly like each other, right? Just a male or female version of the other person, right? Boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, etc. Regardless of who's the dominant one and the submissive one, for the most part, they're very similar, right? And it's an endless cycle, okay? And this is why I always tell people that when you're trying to get to a certain, and you see the results directly, when you're trying to get to a certain level, you have to become what you're trying to attract. The guys that want to find a loyal girlfriend, you have to become a loyal man. Now, again, one of the main reasons people were taught that opposites attract is because they're trying to keep people as divided as possible. If you believe that opposites attract, then you'll listen to the propaganda that it's okay for a man to cheat, but it's not okay for a woman to cheat. What is this doing? Okay, because opposites attract, you can go and fuck as many women as you want, and your woman's going to sit at home and be loyal to you. No, that's not the case at all. If you're a promiscuous man, what's going to happen is your girl's going to be fucking the plumber while you're not home, right? And this goes, and then you go further down the YouTube rabbit hole. You Google what you did wrong, and instead of taking responsibility for, oh, I need looks, money, and status, and you just go down the rabbit hole, right? Honest people attract honest people. Liars attract liars. That's why a cheat code to judging somebody, if they'll be a good friend for you or not, good ally, good girlfriend, etc., observe their friends. If all of their friends are fucking liars, you already know they're going to be one too. If all their friends are fucking honest, then hey, you know they're going to be honest too. And when you just sit down and think about this for more than 5 seconds, it makes logical sense, right? Why would honest people hang out with dishonest people? There would just be nothing but fighting and bickering and conflict. Humans, for the most part, don't really want conflict. Humans, for the most part, want stability and balance and order. That's why when conflict happens, people get sad, people get depressed. That's why modern humans, the soy boy generation, they try to avoid conflict as much as possible. They never keep their friends in check. They never keep their girlfriends in check. They never keep their boyfriends in check. They're trying their hardest to avoid conflict as much as possible. How do you minimize the conflict? By hanging around people that are most similar to you. And we naturally do that. Now, the whole magnetism thing, I'm going to cover that in a specific video because magnets don't really work the way people think that it does, right? The world in general doesn't work the way people think that it does. And part of my conversation with the guy that got angry at me earlier is, we went to using fire and water, right? Hot and cold. So the example that I gave is that fire attracts more fire. That's how fire gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you try to put fire out with water and there's not enough water to contain the fire, guess what happens? Because fire absorbs oxygen and water, H2O, is composed of oxygen, if you dump a small bucket of water on top of a big fire, you just make the fire bigger because now it's absorbing the oxygen from the water, right? And because the fire is attracting more fire. You feel me? And water, right? If you have a small fire and you dump a bunch of water on top of it, the fire immediately dies. It evaporates, turns into gas, etc. There is a reason that most of the planet is water, because it's not the water is attracting more fire and we have like 50% water on planet Earth and 50% fire on planet Earth. No, Earth is like 99% water. 99% water, 0.9% glaciers, and then the rest is fucking land, right? But if opposites attract, then we would have like equal land and equal water. But that's not the case. Hot and cold. Space itself is a vacuum, which means that it's cold. And it's not because cold is like the first natural elements, it's because space is devoid of heat, right? Most of space is cold because space is a vacuum, right? The few heat sources in space are stars and planets, etc., right? But if opposites are attracting, we would have like half hot, half cold, instead of cold being the most predominant thing over the other. Instead of water being more predominant, at least on Earth, over the other. Now, other planets is different. Other planets is mostly solid and not water. But when it comes to hot versus cold, most of space is cold because space is a vacuum. Anyways, I'm nitpicking examples at this point. I think you guys get the point, right? Opposites attract is one of the biggest lies that people were taught from birth. And what I want to end this video by saying is that this applies to most things, right? Most of the things you're taught as a kid are lies, intentional, blatant lies. Some truth is sprinkled on top, but for the most part, most of what you're taught from birth is lies, right? Opposites don't attract. That's a crock of bullshit. You attract what you are. Look at your family. Most of your family is simple. Look at your friends. Most of your friends are similar to you. Look at your girlfriend or boyfriend. He or she is very similar to you. Look at the job you work. Most of the employees are similar to you. You ever wonder why you never see a police department where it's like good cops and bad cops? It's either they're all fucking bad or they're all fucking good. There's like no splits. And why is that? Because they're attracting what they are. And it goes even deeper than this. If the police department is corrupt, then the city that employs them is usually corrupt. This is why if you look at places that have the most corrupt police forces in the country, the whole neighborhood is usually like that. You go to some of these fucking hoods, they got horrible police departments because the people that fund these departments are horrible themselves, right? Versus if you go to some good neighborhoods where they only have like 50 cops because there's no crime happening, you're attracting what you are. You go to neighborhoods where people are being honest and holding each other accountable, you get a police force that does the same. But versus you go to the hood where everybody's lying and robbing and killing each other, you get police down because they're attracting what they are. This is a fucking game. A big fucking game done on the grand scale. And unless you truly comprehend what is going on, certain truths, even these obvious truths, will elude you. And all you have to do is look at your circle. Think, and I'm talking to all of y'all, look at your circle. Think carefully of the people that make up your circle. There ain't no fucking opposites in your circle. I guarantee you that. There may be one or two things different from you and your friends, but for the most part, you're exactly like your friend. They say that you are made up of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. I think 5 is too small of a number. Nonetheless, right, you are like all of the things that you do the most. Your friends, the music you listen to, the games you play, your job, like everything. Like it all goes together. You attract what you are. This is why, again, a lot of people that, like when my energy was negative, I mostly attracted negative people. Now that I've changed my mentality and changed my energy, I'm mostly attracting positive people and getting positive results. Anyways, I think this video has ran on long enough. Goblin, I hope this answers your question. And if not, you got me added on Discord, DM me. We'll have a further conversation. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.